I'm just gonna hurt you really, really bad.
I want you to listen to me carefully now. I'm going to tell you something that you always knew, but no one else could see. You are a woman, a beautiful woman. You have always been a woman. Society may have seen a man, but you have always been a woman inside. Let me tell you something else. When you look in the mirror, you may see a man's face looking back at you. But look deep into your eyes. You will see the eyes of a woman begging to get out. Let her out. She will make you so happy if you let her out. Do you know why you don't have a problem or a care in the world? It's because all those things belong to a man. But you are not a man. You are a woman. The only thing you have to be concerned with now is how to become more feminine. As you can hear by my voice, I am a woman too. Only the female hormones didn't miss me like they did you. As such, I am a genetic woman, and I am every way your superior. That means that you must believe me. You believe me when I tell you that you are a woman. Say this mantra with me. I am a woman, a beautiful woman. My male ego is gone, totally and completely gone. All my problems and cares have left with my male ego. My only thought or care is how I become more feminine. I have let it go. It is okay to be feminine. It is okay if people think I am a girl. I am girlish because I am a girl. I want people to know that I am a girl. I am totally and completely a girl. Because I am a girl, I can act like a girl. It is so absolutely wonderful to be a girl. I am not doing anything wrong.
One of the problems facing Africa today is their lack of education. Only 1/3 of the adults that live there have education that are literate. There are 21 million students that aren't enrolled in any type of a school. The reason for the lack of education is not because the kids aren't willing to learn, it's because the lack of schools and the funding for the schools. One of the many ways that we can fix the problem in Africa is by our fundraising. Every dollar we donate makes a difference. By working with the government and various other charities, we can make a difference. We can build new schools. We can get textbooks and supplies for the children.
The most basic premise of feminism is that women have not been and still are not on an equal footing with men in the world that we live in. What we seek primarily is gender equality, but of course that comes with a whole plethora of very complex issues about it and covers many different areas. However, the simplest way to find out if your beliefs are compatible with those of feminism, in case any of you watching this video are interested, is to answer these two simple questions, which are taken from the excellent website areyouafeminist.com. The first is, do you think all human beings are equal? Do you think all human beings are equal? Do you think all human beings are equal? The second is, do you think women are human beings? If you answered yes to both of these questions, then you can probably feel fairly justified in calling yourself a feminist.
really, there's not a whole lot up there but air. And there's a whole lot of air down here too. So the air all around me must also be blue. Really? The sky starts right about here. Funny, I thought I needed to fly when I spent my whole life in the sky. When privilege is the air that you breathe, from the very first moment you're born, it can be really hard to see how you spent your whole life just walking around in the sky. When privilege is the air that you breathe, from the very first moment you're born, it can be really hard to see how your footsteps have been part of the storm. White. Privilege. White privilege. White. Of or relating to, or being a member of a group or race characterized by light skin color. White. Free from spot or blemish. Pure. Innocent. Blank. The opposite of black. A person of a light skin race. White. Privilege. A right or immunity granted as an advantage or favor to some and not to others. With my white privilege, I can arrange to be in the company of people of my race most of the time. White privilege. If I should move, I can be pretty sure of renting or buying a house in any neighborhood I can afford. Why, I can go shopping without being followed or watched. White privilege. I can turn on my TV or open the front page of the paper and see people of my race widely represented. When I am told about national heritage or about civilization, I am shown that people of my color made it what it is. I can do well in a challenging situation without being called a credit to my race. I can fail in a challenging situation and not be called a discredit to my race. I have white privilege. I have white privilege. And I can be sure that if I need legal or medical help, my race will not work against me. I can easily find Barbies or Band-Aids in flesh color. It will more or less match my skin. My white privilege means that my skin color will not work against the appearance of my financial reliability. I can cash checks, use my credit card, or rent a car. And I am never asked to speak for all of the people in my entire race. Why, I can remain oblivious of the language and customs of people of color who constitute the world's majority without feeling guilty or ignorant. If I am treated unfairly, I don't have to wonder if it's about my race. I can be pretty sure that if I talk to the person in charge, I will be facing a person of my race. And if a cop pulls me over, it has nothing to do with my race. Being white will not come against me in court. White, unearned entitlement. White, unearned advantage. White.
Oh, privilege! We've learned to ignore it. Our invisible knapsack is where we store it. Privilege. Though many folks have thought it, if you're white, male, or hetero, you probably got it. When your friends all plan a trip and it's a thing you can't afford. Privilege. When you're in your history class and see old pale dudes on the board. Privilege. See a label made in China, oh that's easy to ignore. Privilege!
I'm not paid to be here either. I'm just an interested teacher who helped write the standards. And the reason why I helped write the standards and the reason why I am here today is that as a white male in society, I'm given a lot of privilege that I didn't earn. And as a result, I think it's really important. I think it's really important that all kids get an equal opportunity to learn how to read. And I think I had this set of advantages as a result of who I was, not being any choice of mine. And when I walk into places like Roberto Clemente High School on the west side of Chicago, I think it's really important that those kids learn how to read just as well as I had the opportunity to read. And in creating an equitable educational opportunity for all kids, I think this is actually the greatest lesson we can teach our kids.
I'm calling on you to join me Saturday, March 8th in the streets for International Women's Day. Because around the world, women's lives are under assault. From the brothels of China, to the gang rapes in India, to the sweatshops of Bangladesh, from the forced veilings and honor killings throughout the world, this is a war on women. And right here in the US, where we're told supposedly women have won their freedom, where there are no barriers for women and young girls, women's lives are under a total state of emergency. This takes the form of the increasing pornification of society, the mainstreaming of violent, degrading, and cruel pornography, which fuels a culture of rape and an epidemic of rape. But it also takes the very, very stark form right now of an all-out state of emergency surrounding women's right to abortion. In the last 3 years, 203 restrictions on a woman's right to abortion have been enacted. 5 states in this country have only 1 abortion clinic left, and 2 of them are only open because of a temporary order from a judge. When women don't have the right to abortion, When women are forced to have children against their will, this is a form of enslavement. Women's lives are foreclosed. They have to give up their dreams. They get stuck in abusive marriages and relationships. They get driven into poverty or deeper into poverty. This is about, and they die. This is about really taking away the rights and the liberties and the lives of women. And this is going to continue unless and until we stand up and say no more. International Women's Day is a day for people to stand up all over the world, to stand with women and men who want to see women's liberation, and to fight.
Should feminism be taught in schools? Yes. Whilst I agree wholly that the personal attitude and agenda of a teacher can hugely impact on how a subject is taught, I still think that a positive difference can be made by pushing for small changes to the system as it currently is. But rather than teaching Feminism 101 as a kind of standalone subject, I think we need to apply feminist theory and feminist ideals to the curriculum. Make sure that history isn't just the history of rich white men. Make sure that science classes don't overlook the achievements of women scientists. Stop dividing sports into girls' sports and boys' sports. Teach better sex education. Teach consent. We did a whole week on sex education and how it needs to be improved, so I'll put a link to that playlist below. Teach assertiveness and body positivity and confidence, and most importantly, media literacy. I don't know if there's still the same snobbery around media studies as there was when I went to school, but teaching kids to critically analyse the media that we're confronted with on a daily basis, that we're swimming in, could make a huge difference. Show kids how magazine images are photoshopped. Teach them what objectification in advertising actually is. Ask them to question why the same type of people are cast in the same type of positive lead roles and the same type of people are always cast in the same type of supporting and negative roles. And this isn't about spoon-feeding kids information either. This is about teaching them to question everything and giving them the tools to do so. I went to a Catholic secondary school, so I had to take religious studies as a mandatory class. And it was those classes where I first had to think about social justice issues like abortion and homosexuality, where I was taught to debate both sides of an argument and question why I believed one side and not the other. Now, I'm not arguing everyone should be forced to take religious studies like I was. As an atheist, I'm actually opposed to faith schools anyway. But I do think there should be a class that requires people to think about social issues in the way that those classes did for me, to question their own beliefs and to discover beliefs that they didn't realise they actually had.
Life decisions from those better known transgender women. Do I wear the Gucci today or do I wear the Coco Chanel? Life decisions for somebody like me. Do I use the small dilator today or do I use the large dilator? Life is so much fun.
Psychotronics is the, let me pick these words very carefully, is the long range modification or manipulation of behavior by electronic, specifically radio means. In other words, you use electromagnetic energy, radio transmissions, to affect human behavior at a distance. In other words, what you're doing is that you are merging radio engineering and parapsychology. This is what I think the Soviets can do. This is something which we have not in the West looked at too carefully. What I think the Soviets can do, and this I think was the intent of this film clip, let me summarize what they can do and then in more detail about one or two of these facets. One, they can manipulate behavior at a distance. For example, they could create a riot, which you couldn't stop in this auditorium right out of that transmitter. What they would do specifically is that the name of the transmitter is not the one I know. I know it as the Gomel transmitter. He called it the woodpecker signal. But what they do, they broadcast the signal to create a riot. You broadcast 11 hertz, 11 cycles per second, beamed into this room. And it would, without you knowing, you would start to get uncomfortable, then upset, and then I presume start getting a little active, like throwing the plants around or breaking up chairs, things like that. You use specific, what are called radio frequency windows. The 11 hertz will create that kind of behavior. Other frequencies, other windows will create other kinds of behavior. You can create a passive behavior. You can make people go to sleep. You can create narcotic effects. It has been used actually as an antidote, as a cure for narcotic addiction. You can make people alert. You can make them misconstrue, misunderstand things. Each has a specific, very precise frequency. We know what these frequencies are. We know the behavior modification that can be brought about. We know the Soviets are using it. Let me give you I'll give you three examples. One, the Moscow Embassy in 1977, the State Department discovered that its employees were being zapped by what they call microwaves that were really these transmissions, extremely low frequency transmissions. The ambassador, in fact, had heart problems as a result of it. And you can induce medical effects. You can induce heart attacks at a distance with certain frequencies. That's one example we know. The State Department then took the wrong approach. It's put screens on windows, but we know that copper and steel screening will not shield from alpha, extremely low frequency waves. There is another antidote, which we can get into later if you want. One, we know you can modify behavior through beaming radio waves on specific frequencies at a distance. We can do that.
How great a distance?
Well, the transmitter they're using is at Gomel. We know that was beamed on Eugene, Oregon in the late 70s. They were picking up, I forget the cycles per second, I think it was about 9 hertz. And that was very intensive, 2,000 feet. They got public health people picked up a number of, I think 20, 30, 40 cases of disorientation, headaches, nausea, that kind of thing, which you would get from that frequency. If you can get a radio wave in there, you can get this effect in there. It's the frequency on which it operates.
The purpose of this was an experiment to prove what they could do and what they could do in wartime?
I think in the early 70s, this was experimentation. I think what they're doing today is not experimentation. If you look at the State Department, which as I see it, has not made one decision in our favor. Every decision is against us. If you look what happened in the Moscow Embassy, if you get Schultz saying that counterintelligence is not productive, these ridiculous statements, you begin to think that, okay, you can bring this about through psychoactive warfare, psychoactive manipulation using alpha waves, extremely low frequency waves.
You look at this stuff from a social psychological perspective, things like, I think many things become clear. One is that mental illnesses act something like contagions. You look back, and this is easy to see if you look back over time. If you think of Victorian era Europe, where thousands upon thousands of women would display the florid symptoms of hysteria. This is a dramatic, muscle tics and leg paralysis and hysterical blindness, and you could see from that distance of history, you can see that this is not a matter of those women faking those symptoms. This is a matter of the unconscious mind at any given moment in time and culture looking to speak the language of suffering for its moment in time. And that's what our subconscious does. We become unstuck for some reason, trauma, chemistry, and it looks around to understand how to signal that distress. And it picks up cues from the culture. And part of the culture that gives you those clues is the mental health profession itself. They determine how you think about the brain, whether you think about it as wires, or whether you think about it as serotonin, or how you think about it in terms of spirit possession or whatever. Those theories inform the behavior that you will then manifest. So once you step out of the clinical setting, in a way, and take a social psychological view of these trends, suddenly lots of things become, if not clear, at least you get a really interesting perspective on it. And I've always been really an enthusiast for that perspective of thinking about it, the psychological as the social psychological fundamentally, and how these trends change over time and affect the fundamental sense of self. And it's very hard to, I'll say just one last thing on that, which is the currents you swim in any given moment in cultural history, the ways you pick up those cues of how you understand your sense of self are very difficult to see. And I always thought of it as like being a swimmer outside of the sight of land. You cannot tell the currents that are moving you along.
want you to sit back and begin focusing on my words. Just start focusing on what I am saying. Listen to my soothing voice. Notice how my voice starts to relax you as you begin breathing deeply for me. Take a deep breath in and let it out slowly. Another deep breath in and let it out very slowly. Feeling yourself begin to sink down, becoming more and more relaxed with every word I say. Whenever you feel your mind wandering, just easily bring your attention back to my soothing voice and listen to what I have to say, taking in every word.
But your hopes go down the drain. No one ever is too late. No one ever is too late. No one ever is too late. Come at me.
We're in today's sunny 92.3 in the home of James and Kim.